Hello, my beautiful baddies. Welcome back to yet another episode of Your Inner Baddie Speaking. I gotta start this episode by saying I used to be the queen of not feeling my feelings. And it's actually hilarious now because I am quite I don't know if I would say crier or whatever, but I definitely live in my emotions a lot more than I used to. And I definitely I was the kid growing up and we'd watch movies and I'd look over at my mom crying during an obvious scene that evokes a lot of emotion. I'd be like, oh my god, why are you crying? And then I am the same person that will literally today, literally watching a movie and I look over at my cat and I'm like, oh my god, how beautiful. Or oh my god, so sad. I'm crying my eyes out. But I really did, on a serious note, sort of almost deny myself my feelings. I definitely didn't take the time to understand why I was feeling the way that I was feeling, understand where it was coming from, and actually deal with it. A lot of the times it just kind of felt like I was angry or upset, but the second I was, I guess, removed from the situation or it wasn't in front of me anymore, I just felt like I had to almost let it go, or just out of sight, out of mind type of a thing. And so I just wouldn't process anything. And I'm not saying that I didn't feel things as a kid and I didn't grow up with emotions, not what I'm saying, but I didn't allow myself to really go through them. And because I didn't allow myself to go through them, it definitely hit me like a ton of bricks later in life. And to really paint that picture for you, I struggled with a lot of anger, sadness, depression while I was in my later years growing up. And when I went to college, I kind of just assumed, okay, I'm off now. I'm not in that environment. I'm not around what was making me feel those things. And I thought, okay, well, this is a fresh start. And it was a fresh start. I mean, college is a fresh start. I moved out of state, didn't know a soul, and really built everything from the ground up and, really focused on who I was. But at the same time, I had so much unresolved pain. And I really do, that's how I would describe it, is it is the fact that I had unresolved pain and unresolved feelings, really, that I just didn't address. I kind of just was okay, I'm out of it. I should be able to just move on. That's really what my emotional capacity, or at least how I felt I was taught, is you just move on once it's done. Almost as if your pain can only be situational, and once you're out of that situation, or you're away from that situation, or the situation itself is over, you shouldn't be dwelling on it anymore. But obviously, it ain't that simple. And I went off to college, and I think it was, I want to say my sophomore year. I laid up in my room for 3 days. I didn't really eat. I was just sleeping a ton. I didn't want to get up for class. I literally did not want to do shit. I wanted to sleep, be in the dark, and be alone. And my poor roommate probably thought I was turning into some fucking vampire, just huddled under the covers, lights off, don't turn on the lights, don't come in. But in all reality, I was grappling with depression. I was starting to feel overwhelmed because all of those feelings that were unresolved were coming back up. And I remember that was the first time that I was all right, I gotta go to therapy. I've got to address this. I can't just sit in my dorm room, not get the college education that I'm out here, me and my family are paying for. Like, I can't stop living. And I think that was really like the catalyst to getting help, is I was like, I can't live like this. And it really put into perspective how I was actually operating. I think I had been operating in survival mode for so long that when I was out of survival mode, all of those feelings came crashing down. And I think something that added to it is one of the big factors of why I struggled during my childhood was my dad. And freshman year, I think it was winter break, I want to say. It was a break where I came home. And before I had come home, I was at college and I had gotten a text basically saying, like, no longer going to be helping pay for your tuition. And of course, I freaked out, my mom freaked out, because without his help, it basically meant I can't afford to go to school, or at least I can't afford to go to school where I was going to school. So for me, that was like, again, sort of being in survival mode, because you're just like, how do I just problem solve to get where I need to be? And for me, in that situation, between my mom and I, we were problem solving to figure out how exactly to not disrupt my college education. And when I went home, I basically had the very last conversation I had had with my dad in 13 years. And yeah, it caused the collapse of my relationship with my father. And I basically was like, I have got to cut off from this toxic piece. And once I severed that tie and went into the rest of my freshman year, my sophomore year, and things had started to balance out, it was almost as if now that things were sort of even, all of the weight of what was happening and all of the weight of what had happened in my childhood just like hit me. And I truly believe that was what caused me to just sort of shy away from existence at that point. I mean, I was literally just a shell of a human in my dorm room, like did not want to face anything. And after realizing, okay, I need help, and I went to therapy, all of this stuff started to come up. Okay, well, what about this? And that's still impacting you. And all of this anger and sadness and all this shit just like bubbled up to the surface. And for the first time, I was actually processing what had happened. And I think I understood that shit happened, shit made me feel bad, but I was out of shit. Like, I was away from all of that. And so I just thought, like, all right, I should be good now. Like, I should just be able to operate, to be happy. You know, I see other people on campus and I'm like, they're happy and they're loving and they're happy-go-lucky, so like, why the fuck can't I be? And it wasn't until I started to go through that process of actually allowing myself to fully feel what had happened to me that I started to actually heal and move forward. And I tell you this because I don't think it is possible to actually detach from or heal from things that have happened that have caused you pain if you don't understand what caused you pain, get to the root of the issue, and allow yourself to actually feel the emotions that come with it. I'm not talking about, oh, I'm angry, so I, it's all healthy to do, like, you know, maybe a boxing class or something to get out that aggression. But at the end of the day, it's like a Band-Aid. It's a Band-Aid on a larger wound. And if you don't actually admit to yourself, okay, I was actually angry because of whatever had happened, and then you understand why what happened, or at least your part. You might not understand if another person's involved there or why, but you can understand how it impacted you, why you were in that situation, and how you can move forward from it. But just having a feeling of anger or sadness and then sort of brushing the actual problem under the rug, it's not gonna solve it. It's not gonna actually let you move on. You're gonna still hold on to that until you come to terms with it. And it wasn't until I came to terms with, oh shit, I didn't realize as an adult, childhood shit would still impact me, but actually it was impacting a lot of ways that I moved. I had behaviors that stemmed from it. I had coping mechanisms that stemmed from it. I had self-destructive behaviors that stemmed from it. All things that were based on my survival. And I say survival, it's not like I was like out in the woods, like fucking, you know, having to live off the land and like being, you know, completely on my own or something. But I do think that the things that you have survived, the periods of pain that you have survived, you really did survive. Your brain, your body, your temperament, all of these things almost were like trained on how to just get through the situation so that you can exist. I mean, it's no wonder that they say, like, I mean, the shit that kids learn depending on the environment that they're in, like I learned in a very, I guess, unpredictable household. And I can't say like household because like my mom was very predictable, but I guess I grew up with a very unpredictable dad, and you never really knew what was going to set him off. And if something did set him off, you would either receive the silent treatment or like it just, you had no idea what happened. He was angry at you, and then 1 minute he was fine with you. So like I had to learn, and I know others have had to learn in unpredictable households, of like learning what sets them off, even though it's unpredictable. You can't really, you can't really, you know, figure it out, quite honestly, but you try to, right? You try to, okay, that pisses them off, I'm not going to do that anymore. You're tiptoeing in your own house to try to figure out not to step on a landmine, to not set off the shit that's going to explode, to basically protect yourself. I mean, I've read enough books, I've heard enough people's stories, like it gets to the point where some kids were like, you learn the sound of the footsteps in your home. Like it can get that critical to just survive. And all of those things have an impact on you way down the line if you don't process it. Like I hated the silent treatment from my dad. I learned that. I didn't realize I was doing that. And I would mostly do it in relationships, but I also would do it like if something started to upset me, I would like shut down and I wouldn't speak. And to me, that was like an indicator to somebody else, like, hey, something's wrong, but it wasn't because I'm not speaking up. But anyways, all of that to say that there really are trickle-down effects. And until you really go through the mud and dig through all that stuff that's happened to you, the emotions will continue to come up. And even as you're working through it, it will bring those emotions right back up to the surface. But this time it's healthy. It is healthy to relieve yourself of all that pain you've been holding on to. And it's important that you do, because your body will hold on to it. I know I got 2 knots right here. Somebody said I look like I got nice traps. I'm pretty sure it's a combination of muscle and knots. But like this, my neck and my shoulders is where I have carried my tension since I was a young kid. Like that's always my go-to. If I sense confrontation, if I sense something's wrong, if I'm scared, what have you, I immediately tense that area. And that takes years and work to like undo, and I'm slowly working at that. I hope that one day I will not have those knots, but my massage lady tells me that like maybe that's not going to be the case since I work out, but whatever. You gotta let yourself feel. Your mind, your body, everything will hold on to it, even if you don't think. It's just gonna come out later. And if any of you have listened to the comedian Bill Burr, he has a set and he talks about his anger in a lot of his sets. I can't remember which show this was of his, but he was basically like, you just take that anger, you shove it down, and then one day at a Bed Bath & Beyond, you just flip out over nothing. And it's true though, like it's a funny way to phrase it, but it is if you don't address the root problem and you take those emotions and you just put them to the side, eventually something will trigger you and those emotions will come up, honestly, probably whether you like it or not. And unfortunately, when they come up, they also might come up and you might take it out on somebody that is not deserving of that anger or those emotions or that pointedness. They probably have nothing to do with why you actually feel that way, but they are in, this new circumstance that has come up that has triggered you. And so it's very important to let yourself feel, to allow yourself to actually go through the motions of figuring out why you feel that way and then letting that shit out. And however that works for you, whether it's therapy, whether it's venting to a friend, whether it's a fucking rage room, which is still on my bucket list, to be honest, whatever it might be, as long as you are doing your due diligence to even just try to get to the bottom of it, to try to work through it. Because I'll tell you, it's gonna work through you if you don't work through it. And you're not gonna like it going through you. It's gonna feel like shit. It's gonna feel like shit probably no matter what, because like when you deal with these emotions and when you go through it, like it doesn't feel good to let anger bubble up. It doesn't feel good to let tears that you've suppressed bubble up. Like it doesn't feel good, but it feels better knowing that you are in control of it, that you are the one that has decided to process it, because you know that on the other end of that processing is clarity, it's peace, it's understanding, it's coming to terms with what has happened, and it is a form of moving forward. And you want to move forward. You don't want to be stuck in the past. You have this beautiful life ahead of you. You have these memories that you are on your path to creating. You have joy ahead of you, laughter ahead of you, happiness ahead of you. And you don't get there, and I'm not saying that you don't get, joy in your life and that happiness doesn't appear in your life, but it will be harder to feel all of those things, to get all of those positive things if you are trapped within the pain that you are holding on to. And I think it's really hard. That is the hardest part, probably, is like looking inward and going, I'm fucking holding on to this. I'll take it back to, I mentioned on this previously in this episode earlier, I mentioned that was the last conversation freshman year that I had with my dad for 13 years. And he tried to come back up in weird ways, and it wasn't until recently, I think it was this year, he popped up because of a family circumstance and used that to talk to me. But I was always somewhat triggered when I would receive any communication from him. And of course, it had been so long since I had heard from him at all that I was like, I remember talking to my mom, and I started to say, I still get angry. I still get almost pissed off that he even thinks that he gets to just talk to me after years of pain, no apology, no nothing, and you just get to communicate with me. And I realized, even though I had worked through a lot of those issues that I had, that I still had that lingering, dull, I say dull because it doesn't come up unless I hear from him, and even if I do feel it, it's like so diluted from how I used to feel. I mean, oh my God. But I still felt something, right? And I was like, fuck. It's hard to look at me thinking, oh, I'm doing well. I've moved on. I have this lovely life. I have forged my path. I have built my confidence from zero, even when I got knocked down. And it was so hard to admit I was still holding on to something. At this point, it's my fucking problem, because it's not his problem if he wants to reconnect. It's not his problem if he thinks he can get away without an apology. It is not on him. And yeah, it contributes to me feeling a certain type of way, but I was still allowing myself. And I remember talking to my therapist at one point, he had sent me a gift, and I was like, it feels like forced communication. It feels like a form of manipulation. You did something that's quote unquote nice, getting me a present, but you're not in my life. You haven't addressed any of the issues that we had in the past. It's so unresolved, but you think you can be the good guy by sending me a gift. And I was like, it feels manipulative, because now I feel like I'm a bad person if I don't send something, if I don't say thank you, if I don't reach out. And I'll never forget her saying, but you are in control of all of that. It's not in his hands. You're acting like he is the one in control. You get to decide if you want to reply. You get to decide how you want to reply. You get to decide, if you do reply, that you don't have to reply if he does. You don't have to open a conversation if you don't want to. And that was such a perspective change of, I was still holding on, a little part of me felt like I was, transported to that little girl that had to comply. And when she shifted my perspective, I was like, fuck, I don't have to. It is all within my control. And suddenly I didn't feel burdened by anger, because I am in control. I decide how I feel. I decide how I want to move forward, because I have now understood where that anger comes from. I have now understood why that residual feeling is. But again, if I don't address it, I don't fucking know. And, you know, some things you might not be able to address fully until they come back up again. Like, I didn't know I was still holding on to some very residual anger. Like, I didn't know I was until he tried to contact me again. And so even though I'd done so much work and I truly worked through so many layers of it, there was like that final layer that still couldn't be peeled back because it hadn't been activated yet, right? And all of this is to say, you gotta feel your shit. You gotta feel your emotions. Pushing them down, not addressing them, acting as if you can move forward without going through those motions, it doesn't work well for you in the end. It doesn't. And that pain, that feeling that you are trying to avoid in the moment, you won't be able to avoid long term. Eventually, it will find a way to find you again. So I really encourage you to let yourself feel, find a way to figure out how to go through those motions, to really process it, to fully let it go, because that's the goal here, right? You want to feel it so you can let it go, so you can be this confident fucking badass that you are meant to be, but you can't fully be it if you got shit holding you down. So let go of what is weighing you down and cry that shit out. Yell if you got it. Yell into a pillow, box, rage room, whatever you gotta do. Write, like, journal, write letters to the people who have hurt you. Mail them if you need to. Don't mail them if you don't need to. Burn them if you want to. Do what you gotta do to process it. It's gonna be better for you if you just go through it while it's happening, so you don't have to go through it again. I don't want you to have to experience that pain twice. I can tell you from personal experience, it ain't fun. And I'd rather you be having fun. So figure out the ways that work for you, but let yourself feel. Let yourself feel. Allow yourself to feel. It's another form of self-love. It really is. All right, guys. With that, say it with me. I'm a fucking baddie. All right. Love y'all till next time.